Earlier, I wanted to leave my body. I didn't know how. It was horrible. So I don't know what's gone wrong, but we'll see. Something went wrong with me. It was so bad. I said they have to do a little bit of a emergency procedure. That's my epidural. Got normal painkillers on that side. That's my hand here. And that machine is pumping away. So, honestly, I just want to go home. Probably shouldn't get my hopes up.
Okay, so today marks 8 months since what would have been a relatively simple operation. On the 10th of January 2025, I was scheduled to have an operation to remove a pilonidal cyst after 3 failed operations over the previous 18 months. They were determined to not allow it to return. And for a little context here, my body doesn't seem to handle internal infection very well. My immune system is somewhat lacking in attention to detail. For those who have been with me since day one, you may recall I developed an infection in my foot from an injection where the area wasn't cleaned beforehand. This led to an abscess developing later necrosis, where a lot of tissue was removed from my foot. Whilst my body's poor response to fighting off internal infection could easily be at fault for this, I would later learn that this whole scenario could have been avoided had advice from senior medical professionals been followed by those who oversaw my case. It would turn out the senior chief of surgery had warned those handling my case there was a very high likelihood of this situation developing into something more serious. Unfortunately, said advice was disregarded, which leads us here. Anyway, January the 10th had arrived, my operation was scheduled, having originally supposed to have taken place in December. At this point, I was in pain daily. It was becoming routine. I was looking forward to it being done and dusted. They walked me through the procedure, what to expect, begin preparing me for general anesthesia. I remember lying on the surgical table, a few medical professionals around me, a cannula fitted in my arm and a warm blanket over me. I felt safe, I felt comfortable. They begin administering the general anesthetic and I'm flooded with a warming sensation. Problem was, I was still conscious. I asked them, so when should I be asleep? Jokingly, as they had expected me to be under by now. A short while longer, they appeared to adjust the dosage and the sensation becomes more prominent. See you on the other side, I joked. I wake up groggy, not fully able to grasp my surroundings as one would expect. A short moment before I am overwhelmed with pain. Something wasn't right. This was my 4th operation for the same thing. I knew the procedures by now. I knew what to expect. This was different. Describing the pain would be difficult, but it's also not massively important anyway. All I remember are the noises I was making. A mumbled, confused screaming. I hear medical professionals rush to my bed, urgent communications between them that I couldn't make it out. I feel my body being lifted onto its side. I was being held in place by the team as they tell me they're about to fit an epidural. A needle will be inserted into my spine to block the pain signals from the lower half of my body. I can't remember the needle, only the pain from the surgical site. It was overwhelming. So they begin administering it. Because of the time it was going to need to take effect, but the pain is replaced with the effects of medication. I slip unconscious again. A lot of what happened is naturally quite difficult for me to recall, not only immediately after surgery, but in the few months that followed where I was heavily medicated. Some parts I remember, some parts I rely on the official medical journals as to what actually happened. The next part I remember is waking in the hospital room. I look around and there are wires and cables everywhere. I have an oxygen tube up my nose, a weird wire coming out of my back hooked up to the machine. That was the epidural. And a 1/2 inch thick tube coming from the surgery site hooked up to a machine that was drawing excess blood away. A cannula in my hand with a drip for antibiotics. It was all rather overwhelming. Shortly after I was fitted with a catheter as well, which, needless to say, I absolutely do not recommend. So what the hell went wrong? I was told different severities from different people. Each time I would ask, they'd be more honest about the intensity of the operation. That in itself was infuriating. It was hard to just get information. But it turns out when I was on the operating table, they discovered that the infection had spread to my bone. I developed osteomyelitis, and they had to remove my tailbone to prevent it reaching my spine. The following week was hazy at best. Pain medication, IV antibiotics, checkups, assessments. Rarely was I coherent enough to know what was happening. I slept through most of it, waking up every so often to the various noises of the machines around me. I remember begging the hospital staff about a week after to let me go home. At this point, I was stable. My O2 sats were safe. I wanted out of the hospital, the walls that were around me. I was receiving antibiotics 4 times a day, still with the pain management and having the surgery site inspected each day, so it wasn't a simple request. But I said I was taking up a hospital room and someone else may need, and it would be less of a financial impact on the healthcare system to have someone visit me at home, which is true, and that's what I thought of. And I also needed some security, some familiarity, and I missed JJ. The following day, I was told that my transfer to home had been approved. I'd be provided with a hospital bed, and the equipment needed to continue treatment at home. I would have at least 3 visits a day to administer the IV, additional visits for the management of the wound. Because of the severity of the infection, I'd be on IV antibiotics for I think at least 2 weeks before then switching to tablets for a further 3 weeks. So they were not taking chances. For this, I would need a long-term catheter fitted in my arm, this arm actually, which was by there. I had this fitted shortly after I was transported home the same day, where I expected to spend the next few weeks recovering. I knew it would be a long ride, but I just wasn't aware how long. From that point on, my life became about multiple visits from medical professionals each day, unable to move from the hospital bed. I was in pain, despite the medication I was taking. My bedroom became its own hospital room, just more familiar, which allowed me to relax a little bit. I spent the next 4 months in that bed. The nurses became good friends to me. They were incredible. They fought really, really hard. They went above and beyond to do whatever they could to improve my quality of life. For that, I'll be forever grateful. I don't know how I would have done it if it wasn't for them. They kept me going. Trina, McGrader, if you see this, I'm forever in your debt. Thank you for keeping me going. Words don't do it justice. It would turn out I had previously met McGrader's husband. What are the chances? He's a paramedic. Remember when I broke my spine last year? So does he. Man, I need a hobby or something. I can't get over just how incredible some people are in this world. If you work in the medical industry, you really are a hero to me. The next few months were a mess. Just an overall mess. I was improving, then I wasn't. One particularly nasty time was having to detox from long-term morphine use. I had been questioning whether I was really in pain or if my brain was creating it in an attempt to get more. I've always been nervous of long-term use of medication like that. And as soon as I could come off of it, I wanted off. As soon as the pain was tolerable, that was enough. It still took months, and that was a hard fight for sure, but I got there. I went to hospital for a checkup in April to see how things were going. Unfortunately, I was readmitted as my blood pressure had dropped. There were signs of repeat infection again. I was fitted with yet another epidural, and to much my displeasure, another catheter. I would spend the next week in hospital. This is where the fallout started happening. Anytime I would attempt to get into a vehicle, I broke down. I was scared, I was hurting in multiple ways. The mental pain was this new experience I was fighting. The damage mentally is one I won't be able to explain here either. In fact, I had to scrap this video idea for weeks as I would break down again, trying to revisit the events to write it down. A few weeks ago, I finally accepted I needed help, and that's a step in the right direction. I'm scared of hospitals. I'm scared of getting into a vehicle. Over 8 months, I've had nightmares about 80% of nights. So I'm just screaming in fear, waking up in the middle of the night. I'm constantly in pain, even now. And the journey ahead is still a long one, to say the least. But I'm looking towards it now. Despite my limited time, I've been able to sit down before the pain is too much and I have to return to lying down. I'm still sitting down in some form. That's progress. I mean, even sitting here now, I've got enough time to record and then I go and lie back down again. But that's something I couldn't do before. Every day is a step forward. I need to return to that routine. It'll help me. I miss it. I've missed you all. I'm so grateful and genuinely honored for the support and patience I've received of you. A thank you will never be enough for that. Every message, every donation, new Patreons, buy me a coffee. It's all a token of love and generosity that motivates me and keeps me driven. My fuel in a very dark time. to support me for so long when I haven't released content in months just shows how fortunate I really am. Without you guys, I can't even find the words. But I just ask that please bear with me as I attempt to stabilize my posting schedule and return to routine. I'm certainly not short of ideas. I have so many. And again, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for being my motivation. I will start to return to normality now. I'll get there. It's a journey. And every day is a step in the right direction. And I reckon that is a perfect time for a brew.